So welcome everybody. This is the Microsoft 365 Power Platform community call. Somebody's coughing on audio. Please mute yourself. This is the Microsoft 365 Power Platform community call on January 13th, 2024. It is the end of January already, so spring is coming hopefully soon. Let us know actually in Helsinki still, so I'm waiting for all of that to go away so I can get inline skating soon. Not soon, within a few months. My name is Juvonen. I'm a principal product manager in Microsoft and working on the Microsoft 365 platform areas and of course related technologies like Power Platform and Microsoft Cloud in general. Today we'll go through the latest updates and news on the Microsoft 365 Power Platform, so covering what's happening from that side and some assets, a typical set of content, but there's always new people joining on this call, so we want to make sure that everybody's up to date on all of the free goodness what we have available to get started. Then we'll do the group photo together in the Teams, and hopefully it will be working today. It seems to be working, which is good. And then we go to the actual demos of today. So Garry is going to continue the series related on Pro Code, Copilot extensibility, so extending Copilot for Microsoft 365 on building a message extension plugin to access SharePoint Online list data in real time using C# and .NET. It's a really cool scenario. Reid Carlberg is going to do an introducing SharePoint Embedded. We had a lot of requests and questions related on SharePoint Embedded, so we are starting a small series on that one for the spring. And then Loki and Ryan are here to talk about changes to the website tab in the new Teams client, a impactful change on there. So they're going to talk about what it actually means in practice and what that change is all about. Now, a kind of a teaser for next week related on the Copilot side of the house, because we are getting a lot of insights and requests on a lot of requests related on Copilot. We will start actually a small series also on Copilot Studio, so you will actually see the low code and no code options for building experiences as well. Good to be up to date on those as well. Now, before we go to the demos, as said, let's go through some of the assets which we have available. So first of all, we have our YouTube channel where we have all of the recordings of these community calls and all of the demos are getting published there. We have at least one video published every single business day within that channel. So every single day there's something new. Today, I think we already released 3 videos on that channel. So there's a lot of stuff getting published from Microsoft and from community side. We have our LinkedIn group for discussions. We also have our open source assets in a GitHub. But as it might be a bit difficult to find the relevant sample what you're looking for, we also have the sample galleries in place. Which are helping for you to find the relevant sample. And there's a lot of URLs to remember. Luckily, there's actually only one, which is AKMS Community Home. By the way, we're redesigning that site as well, so to be a bit more aligned on the new UI, UX, and experiences. Now, you might be interested about the community calls because you are in a community call or you're watching a recording of a community call, and we have a lot of these calls. So we do have the Tuesday 8 a.m. Pacific time, which is this call, which is Microsoft 365 and Power Platform with Microsoft speakers. On top of that, we have the Power Platform monthly call, Office Saturday monthly call, and then we have our 7 a.m. Thursday series happening every single week, 7 a.m. Thursdays on Pacific time, which is either the Microsoft 365 and Power Platform community call or the Viva Connection and SharePoint Framework community calls, and those are flipping basically then every other week on the Thursdays. You can download the recurrence invites at the community calls URL, and we are always publishing the latest agendas immediately when those are getting locked on the previous week versus the call at the Meetup service. The Meetup service seems to be actually surprisingly popular, so we're getting more and more people signing up there. You will get then an email in your inbox telling you what is the agenda for next call next week whenever we're getting that published. So a great way of staying up to date on the plans. Now, some of those calls are for community demos, and we really want you to have that opportunity to show what you learn. The community demos doesn't have to be rocket science, doesn't have to be open source, but we do not welcome product demos. So it's something what you played around, learn to do. You want to share your, let's say, learnings on maybe Copilot Studio. You want to share your learnings on something cool, what you built or configured with Power Apps, or you built something with SPFX or in Teams or whatever comes to mind. Share those learnings with other people in the community. That is super valuable. Now, I want to call out here, if you have for your own YouTube channel and all of that, and you've done some demos there and you would like people to know about your YouTube channel, well, sign up for the demo. You can promote your YouTube channel as the intro section for the demo and then move into the demo within these calls. Good way of educating people on your existing channels as well. So AKMS Community Request Demo is the URL to sign up. Yes, we're saying YouTube many times. Thank you. And Steve Corey, awesome YouTube channel. Great work on that. Now, getting started with assets on Microsoft Cloud. We have Microsoft 365 developer program. There's some changes there, but you will get a free E5 developer tenant, which will renew automatically as long as you use it for developer purposes. That's a super cool free asset for you to take advantage. And then we have a lot of Microsoft Learn material in the Microsoft Learn modules to get started. We also have our bi-weekly shows, PMP Weekly, which is in a podcast and video format. We have also the Mondays at Microsoft with Caruana and Heather, which is live streamed in LinkedIn and in YouTube. And then we have the Microsoft 365 Developer Podcast, which is coming back with new episodes pretty soon. So that seems to be the case, which is really cool. Looking forward on that one as well. Now, I did mention some of the samples already. Just updated the numbers. We're at 1,840 plus samples at AKMS community samples. So this is the one centralized location to find all of the samples from the community or from the Microsoft employees. So as Microsoft Engineering publishes their samples or as community publishes their samples within our centralized community repos, they're getting actually aggregated automatically from this one centralized location. Convenient location to find ideas and inspiration on what you can do within the Microsoft 365 and Power Platform. So please take advantage of that one. Now, as you find a sample, you might be wondering on, hey, wait a minute, so how do I get started on this? Or you have some other questions related on our cloud technologies or how to get started. We have Sharing is Caring initiative for that one, and we have Hugo Bernier in the call to talk about what is that all about.
Thank you, Vesa. Well, folks, our community is an inclusive and diverse community, and we welcome everyone, as Vesa said. And so if you're willing to contribute, you're looking to contribute, or you just don't know how to get started. Maybe you're not comfortable with GitHub, or you're not comfortable with speaking in public. We have sessions for you that are Sharing is Caring sessions, and they are not recorded. They're small groups, and everybody's safe. It's a safe place. I make all the mistakes during those calls anyway, so you don't have to worry. And the great thing about that is once you have signed up for one of these sessions, of course, we'll send you an invite, and you can go to aka.ms/sharingiscaring to join these calls. But once you have contributed, maybe whether you have used Sharing is Caring or not, but you've contributed, you created a pull request or a presentation, we will send you a badge. It's part of our community recognition program. Now, this badge is at no cost to you. It's powered by Credly, those same people who show up on your LinkedIn profile or your blog. And we have lots of cool achievements. In fact, I think we do have an animation coming up for some fancy animation. Maybe, there you go. Our new 2024 badges have been released. So you should, if you've been contributing this year, you should start receiving invitations to activate your badges within the community. So please don't hesitate to sign up, to go to AKNMS Community Recognition so that we can associate your email address with your GitHub user ID, and we'll take care of the rest. Back to you, Vesa.
Excellent. Thank you, Toronto, on that one for Toronto, Canada. Now that I remember, Hugo, where you're located. So
thank you.
Canada is a big country. Anyway, so a few recap on the conferences which are coming up. First of all, April 13th, May 1st and 2nd, we have the Microsoft 365 conference coming up in Orlando. We will update the websites pretty soon. There's a lot of excitement and news coming up on who's going to be talking there. A lot of workshops, a lot of presenters, Microsoft speakers, and also MVP speakers there as well. Great opportunity of staying up to date and hearing the latest around the Microsoft Copilot, Microsoft Teams, Microsoft Viva, SharePoint, and much more. Now, we also have the European Collaboration Summit. If you're based more on Europe side and you don't want to fly over the pond to Orlando in Florida, European Collaboration Summit is happening in 14th to 16th May in Wiesbaden, Germany. Wiesbaden is a smaller city right next to Frankfurt. So from Frankfurt Airport, it's a super short drive or a train trip. So it's really convenient location as well. And then on top of that, we have the TechCon 365 happening this year again in Seattle, DC, and Dallas. At Seattle one being in June 3rd to 7th. The next one, which is happening, TechCon used to be EduCon. Just to be clear on that one, they changed the name not to be just about education, no, but it was a bit confusing. So now it's TechCon, just to be clear that it's technology and Microsoft 365 Power Platform. And then later this year, we have also the Power Platform conference coming up in Las Vegas on September 18 to 20. And a lot of other events throughout the world. So if you go to the communitydays.org, you will always see all of the latest events which are happening all around the world. This week we have events happening in Tallinn, Estonia, or in Miami, Florida. And then next week, actually, it's pretty cool. Royal Caribbean Oasis of the Seas. So basically community days at sea happening within the Caribbean. That's a pretty cool event. So a lot of events happening all around the world. Some of these might have a cost. Some of them are free. Some of them might be virtual. Please check them out and join the other people within the community. Now, quick recap on all of the news from this week. I will copy paste actually the news from the in the window. There we go. So not that many news overall from Microsoft, but the big news from Microsoft side, at least, was that Microsoft Mesh is now generally available. So you can actually use those immersive and create those immersive worlds within Microsoft Teams and start using them within your company. I am actually missing one news in here. It's fine. Also, the release wave 1 plans for Microsoft Dynamics 365 and Power Platform is now available. So that's basically explaining all of the great new features which are coming up across the Power Platform. And then a lot of other news which are already copied within the chat. So please check them out. Now, before we go to the actual stars of the day, let's do a quick crew photo with Together mode. Hopefully it is working properly today. Let me flip, first of all, to that slide. There we go. And then I will flip Together mode in here, and I will drag and drop you on the right window. Let's do the jungle one, if we can get everything to work. And it's working. It's looking really promising. And here we go. Not yet recording. Let's wait for a while. We do have 50 seats in the room. It's a bit pixelated, but I can see Mark there. I can see Reid. I can see, a lot of familiar faces. Troy, I can see a lot of people there. A bit pixelated, but no can do. 50 seats. I'm not going to enable my camera because I think it will get even more pixelated. It is pixelated. Oh, there we go. Oh, no, come on, zoom in. There we go, maybe. It's okay. Let's do some hand waving regardless. I will do the recording and we'll capture a GIF animation out of that to show other people in the community the smiling faces, which we barely can see from the pixelation. It's a bit pixelated today. No can do, but we can see all of the waving hands. Thank you for that one. Really cool. Yeah, yes, Bo, thank you for that one in the chat. Not sure if it's my internet or if it's the Teams or whatever is always every now and then causing that. No can do. It is what it is. Thank you, Cody, on that one. Now, let's then move to the actual stars of today. So we'll start with Garry, related on extending Copilot for Microsoft 365 and building messaging extension plugin to access SharePoint Online list data stored in real time. And then we move to Reid and Loki and Ryan after that. But I think, Garry, you are ready to go.
Yeah, I'll just share my screen. Hopefully you should get this through.
Yep, I can see the screen. Take it away.
Okay, great. Hi, everyone. As Vesa mentioned, this is another item in the series for extending a Copilot for Microsoft 365. If this is the first time you've heard about extending Copilot for Microsoft 365, we do have previous recordings for sessions that we have to introduce you to just the options that are available to you to extend Copilot, and also a session that I previously did, which introduced extending Copilot with plugins. Now, today Today, I'm going to talk about specifically a sample plugin that has been created and is available to you. And this is a product support message extension plugin. So this message extension plugin can be used in Microsoft Teams across desktop, web, and mobile, and also Microsoft Outlook in desktop and web. And this message extension enables your users to search for product information held in a SharePoint Online list by the product name, and then share that information in a message in Teams or in an email. And this message extension uses delegate authentication, so it's everything, all the data is being accessed as the current user as well, and that's via Microsoft Graph to get at that data in SharePoint. So you have to be authenticated, you have to have access to that data to actually return that and view it. Now, this plugin can also be used by Copilot, and Copilot can use this plugin to access this data in real time and use the information that's returned in its responses. And not only that, it also provides a surface where end users can act on those responses as well. So where we're referencing data in an external system, we can show a user interface to allow them to then make the next step, might be editing information or, just anything that you want. It's a surface there that you can extend. So I'm going to have a quick run over the plugin architecture. There's quite a lot going on here. Now, the way that the plugin is deployed, it's deployed using a Teams app package. And when that app package is deployed, it's going to be available for the 3 different clients to be able to use this messaging extension plugin. So that's Teams, Copilot, and Outlook as well. And that client is going to send messages to a bot service when users interact with the messaging extension. So, starting a search. And the messages are going to be relayed from the bot service via a dev tunnel to a locally running web service. Now, I need this dev tunnel in between because my web service is running locally on my machine. So I need to expose this web service over the internet because the bot service is running in the cloud. It needs to be able to have that level of access. Now, this web service then is able to call, make requests to Microsoft Graph to get information from that SharePoint Online list. Now, there's an authentication side of things in here as well. So what actually happens is the first time someone uses this message extension, we need to authenticate this user. We need to know who they are, make sure that we can call Microsoft Graph on their behalf. And the way that works is that we use a token service that's made available to us by the bot framework service. And this is an intermediary that actually helps us obtain access tokens from Microsoft Graph to then be able to use those tokens in our web service. And I'll go through this as we jump into the code, which we are going to do next. So that slides over. We're going to head it into Visual Studio. So here I have my message extension project. So this is a project that has been scaffolded using Teams Toolkit for Visual Studio. So it's using .NET written in C#. And in here, we've got a number of folders. First, let's take a look at the app package. So this is the manifest file, which describes our message extension. So we can see in here that we have the name, we have description. This is very important in terms of Copilot, because Copilot is going to look at this description to try and decide, okay, from the prompt that has been entered, is there a plugin out there that I can use to get information or add information to my responses and reasoning? In here, we have a compose extensions array, and this defines our search element of our message extension. So we have one command, which is just a query command called products, and this command has 2 parameters. It has product name and it has target audience as well. Now, the first parameter product name will only show in Teams and Outlook because they don't support multiple parameters, but Copilot does. So there's an extra parameter here for target audience that we're going to use Copilot to basically send search queries through. Okay, so that is our app package, our app manifest. Let's just take a look through some of the infrastructure as well. So Teams Toolkit is really good at being able to get started very fast. It gives us automation to be able to deploy pretty much everything that was shown on the architecture diagram. And it uses a number of manifest files and bicep files. So we have our manifest files for our Microsoft Entra app registration. So we have one for the bot here, and we also have one for Microsoft Graph as well. And we can see that for Microsoft Graph, the scopes that we want to use are just sites read, write, .all, because we just want to read and update items in that SharePoint list. And we also have a bot registration as well. So we have a bicep file, which is actually going to provision the bot service for us, and it's going to actually configure the bot service as well. So we have a bot service that is going to be created and then configured with two channels. There's going to be a Microsoft Teams channel and a Microsoft 365 extensions channel, and a connection as well. So this is the connection that's going to be used to obtain our access token from Microsoft Graph. And we have in here the scopes that this connection can actually use. The next thing I want to show you is the dev tunnel. So in Visual Studio, we have the ability to create dev tunnels. I've already created one here, and this is already configured for my running message extension, so that any messages that are relayed from the bot service to my web service, to my web service endpoint, it's going to come through that dev tunnel. And just to show you where the endpoint is, we have an API controller here, so API messages. This is my messaging endpoint that's going to receive messages from the bot service. When that message is received, it's processed by our bot logic. I'll get to that in a second. First of all, let's jump into the Azure portal and just show you the bot service configuration. So here I have my bot service, which is configured. Here's my messaging endpoint. So this is what I just showed you earlier with the dev tunnels URL. We can see the configured channels, and channels from a bot service perspective is these are the applications that are able to send messages to this bot service. So we have one specific Microsoft Teams, we have Microsoft 365, which basically makes message extensions in Outlook and Copilot plugins work with the bot service. If I go to configuration, we can see again, we've got the messaging endpoint in here. We have a Microsoft Entra app registration here. So this ID is basically the bot identity, where the client ID and client secret is created, and we use that credential in our bot to basically authenticate with bot service. Now what we've got here is we've got a Microsoft Graph connection. So this is what I showed in the bicep file. I just want to quickly open this up and just show you that it's referencing another app registration where we have the Microsoft Graph scopes set, and we can see that we've got the scope here as well. Now, this is important. This sample uses SharePoint. It uses Microsoft Graph. Now, you can actually use this bot token service to work with any number of different identity providers as well. So you see there's a huge list here. So if you're looking to connect to different services, you're not using SharePoint Online, you want to use something else, then you can use this approach as well. It's just a case of configuring the connection setting. Okay, right. Let's jump into Teams and just show you what this means from a user perspective. So if I open my message extension here, it automatically does a search for me, and straight away my message extension has gone, you need to sign in. So it returns a response that has a sign-in link, and I can click this sign-in link, and it can get a token from for Microsoft Graph. It stores that in the token service, and then anytime I come back to this message extension, if it needs to refresh the token, it will do that behind the scenes for me. I don't actually have to handle that. And it's gone and got the information from SharePoint, and it's rendered it as a list of results. And we can see how that works in Microsoft 365 chat as well. I have my plugin here. I'm just going to grab the previous message that I put in, bit of a sneaky view into what's actually going to happen here. But I'm going to send this prompt through, and Copilot is going to use my message extension, but it's going to get the challenge to say, hey, I need you to actually authenticate. Just let that go for a second.
We'll cut that away from the video editing. So.
That's fine. So it said that it couldn't find information, but it's actually found a plugin, right? It's gone, hey, do you want to sign into Contoso products? Because this one might be able to help you. Click the sign in button. It's going to work in the same way as it does it in the Teams in the Teams experience. So it said, yeah, you're now signed in. I can send the prompt through again, but this time it's going to get me some information, but it's going to be, getting that token for Microsoft Graph. It's going to be getting that data from SharePoint. It's going to create a number of results, and it's going to return that to Copilot, in which case it will be able to show in the responses. Yeah, it's found some information, and there we are. It's got some information about products, call volumes, the dates. It's going a little bit slow. There we go. And we've got the adaptive card here that then, I can view information and I can edit as well. So if I just click edit, we'll get an inline form. Okay, so how does this all work? I mentioned about the adapter, and it processes these messages that are coming backwards and forwards between the client, the bot service, and our web service. If I go to, where are we, in the bot folder, if we go to Teams message extension, this is where all of the message extension logic is contained. So in here, we have a class that inherits from a Teams activity handler class, and this gives us methods to be able to basically react to some of these events. Now, the main method is this on Teams message extension query async method. Now, this runs every time there's a search. Okay, and it passes in the information about, what the user searched for, and in Copilot's case, what it passed to the message extension based on the prompt that it was given. So we can see the first two lines is we actually create a client to the token service, and then we call a method to just get a token. I just expand this. We get a magic code back from the bot service, which we can pass into this get user token async method to say, hey, token service, do you have a token already for this connection, which would be Microsoft Graph? If you do, return it to me, or if it's expired, go refresh it, bring me back another one. If not, though, we're going to check for that. So our next check is, do we actually have a token? If we don't, we're going to send back a authentication response. So in here, we actually send a message extension response with a type of auth, and this contains a sign-in link. And that sign-in link was when we saw it in Teams, it actually said sign in. So the user clicks that, then goes through the authentication flow for the token service to get a token. So the next time we do a search, we get a token back because there's already a token cached in the service. Then we can start to run through the logic of our message extension. So the way that we can get some information from what the user has passed in is we can use a method here called getQueryData, which basically looks in this parameters array for the value of, let's say, product name. In Teams, the text box is just the product name parameter. So that's going to return us the value that's passed in. From the Copilot perspective, if you noticed, I actually didn't say anything about a product name. I actually said, get me the products that are aimed at individuals. And what Copilot can do is it can pass in a value into a parameter called target audience, which is actually a retail category. I'm going to show you in the app package how it works. So in the app manifest, we have a description here that says audience is the product. Audience that the product is aimed at. Consumer products are sold to individuals. Enterprise products are sold to businesses. Now, this is important because I didn't actually say, consumer. I didn't say enterprise, but I did say individuals. So Copilot can work out that actually by saying individuals, you're meaning consumer products. So the value that comes through is actually as a retail category, either consumer or enterprise, because my description kind of guides Copilot, say here are the valid values that I want you to pass in. Now, going further, the rest of the code in here is pretty much constructing an API call. So I create a query filter in here. We create a graph client. We get data from SharePoint. We pass the query to the graph SDK to get the items back. And then what we do is we render our search results as an array of attachments. So we iterate over each of these items. We go and actually get more information because each product has an image as well. So we use the graph API, we use the thumbnails API to go and get an image that we can display in the card. And we create two different cards. We create the result card, so the one that is kind of fully fledged with actions and the whole picture, and also a preview card as well, which is used in the search results. We combine them together into an attachment and then add them into an attachment array, which we return as the message extension response. So that's how we get the list of results with the little image. When I click on it, it goes into the email or the message area. Then we get the full adaptive card as well. So that is in a nutshell how this works. There is more. There's action buttons on the cards as well that are implemented. But for time, I'm going to jump back to my slide. I could jump back to my slides. Yeah, so this is a sample that you can access via the sample solution gallery. The link is kind of hidden there for some reason, but it's aka.ms/community/samples. If you select the Copilot for Microsoft 365 filter, you'll see a number of other samples for graph connectors and plugins as well. Go check it out. And if you want to learn any more about extending Copilot for M365, go to the link on the screen and you'll find all the information. Vesa, back to you.
Excellent. Thank you, Garry, on that one. Really, really cool. Step-by-step showcasing how it actually works. Awesome job on there. Really, really awesome. Now, let's then jump on Reid Carlberg and talking about introduction on SharePoint Embedded. And we can see the screen.
All right. Well, good morning, good afternoon, everybody. I always love coming to these calls because I learn a ton. So thanks to everybody who's presenting here today. I'm going to talk a little bit about SharePoint Embedded, and I also have my teammate, Mark Windle, who is online today. So if you have questions as we go through this and you post them in the chat, you might see him jump in. I do want to point out that we are now in public preview. And if you've heard about products like repository as a service, or SharePoint repository services or Syntex repository services, those were all kind of working titles for what we now have as our final name, SharePoint Embedded. And so I'm very excited today to give you an overview and an update on where we are with this. So I want to start off with a basic assumption, and this is our understanding as we talk to enterprises of all sizes around the world, is that content is really the lifeblood of every enterprise and every app. And by content here, I'm talking about, documents that you might make in an Office product or text files or PDFs or anything like that. And what happens is these files and documents end up moving around an organization in very interesting ways. And some of them stay in M365, but often what happens is they get uploaded and stored in some type of other system. And these other systems might be first-party systems that an enterprise has built for itself. Maybe they're a line of business app that actually handles some sort of proprietary process that they have to go through. Or maybe it's a third-party developed ISV app that's purchased and used by an organization. So maybe it's a sales management system or a marketing management system. And what happens is when these pieces of content, these files and documents get uploaded into these other systems, they end up getting put into repositories with a wide variety of capabilities. And so from a management standpoint, these fragmented and siloed systems end up creating a challenge, right? You end up with security and compliance challenges. You end up with differences around collaboration capabilities and a whole lot more. And so what we think is out there is an opportunity for a unified content platform for enterprises. And so the idea here is that any app that you would develop as part of your own enterprise line of business would store files and documents into the same layer as any app that you purchase from a third party, right? And so the idea is that all of these apps are storing the files and documents that matter to them inside a unified document layer. And you end up then with a very consistent collaboration capabilities, a consistent security footprint. You end up with very consistent content management capabilities, as well as all the emerging content AI features. And this is actually where SharePoint Embedded comes in. So SharePoint Embedded, it is an API-only, headless version of SharePoint specifically designed for apps. Now, it's designed to be used both by enterprises who are building those line of business apps and by ISVs who are building apps that they sell to other companies. Now, importantly, it actually creates a dedicated partition within your M365 tenant to store those files and documents. And within that dedicated partition, you end up with M365 collaboration, security and compliance. You have all the integrated content management and control that you're used to. Everything is content AI ready. It is all powered by consumptive APIs that are exist in the graph stack. And of course, everything comes with the M365 business continuity processes or business continuity promises. So if we take a little bit different look at this, what you can see is a kind of a layer cake diagram sitting up here on the screen. And at the foundation of everything is the Microsoft Cloud. That's the infrastructure that we're running on. And then in the middle, you have these two platforms. At the foundation of everything is the M365 security and compliance platform. On top of that, you have SharePoint Embedded. And then on top of that, you have the experiences. Now, on the experiences, you're going to notice that there's two separate sections up here, and this is actually really important. On the right-hand side, you'll see that we have a number of M365 experiences that are already today being built and delivered on top of this stack. Right? And so things like Designer and Loop are already delivered using SharePoint Embedded as their file and document management system. So then you, as an enterprise building custom applications or as an ISV building applications, you actually can build on the exact same stack that Microsoft does within M365. So I want to talk a little bit now about some of the features that this actually brings forward. Don't worry, I'm not going to read the whole slide, but broadly speaking, when we think about kind of the features that this enables for apps, it's these four big families of security, collaboration, core storage, and then of course, content AI. And our general mission is to make sure that if you have an M365 capability, we want to surface that as part of your use of SharePoint Embedded. So in the collaboration world, which I'll talk more about here in just a second, for example, you have really easy access to Word, Excel, and PowerPoint, both the web client and the desktop client. so that you can embed co-authoring and live presence and everything that means inside your custom app that you're building. Now, if we think about kind of the core innovation that's driving all this, it's all built around kind of the M365 tenant. And so already today, you have this notion of this M365 storage platform that goes across the whole tenant, and you have different partitions that use that storage platform differently. So for example, you have SharePoint, which behaves one way, and you have OneDrive that behaves another way. And what we're introducing is this ability to create a custom partition within that M365 storage platform. And that's really where SharePoint embedded containers comes in. Now, there is no user experience as part of the SharePoint embedded containers. These are something which you can only interact with via the API, and you always interact with it via the Graph API. So the good news is that if you're used to using Graph APIs to do things with files and drive IDs and all that kind of good stuff, all of your knowledge around that carries forward into SharePoint embedded. Now, these embedded containers are actually really flexible. As I said before, they actually give you this dedicated SharePoint partition for your app. So when you start using SharePoint embedded with your app, that section of M365 is dedicated and isolated for your app. There's some details around that I'll get to in a second. But the important thing to keep in mind is that your app has full control over the containers that are within there. So for example, if you need to instantiate a container or you need to garbage collect a container, all of that is something which your app can manage. Now, these containers end up also being a scale unit and security boundary. And so it really becomes an important part of your information architecture. And so if you have kind of a business construct, we'll talk a little bit later about one of these for one of our partners called Peppermint Technology. But if you have a business construct, which is actually what's organizing the files and documents, you can very easily instantiate a container for each one of those. And so maybe this is a client engagement, or maybe this is something around a year, some reason that you want to organize those files and folders as part of this. Of course, it's integrated with M365 experiences. There is PowerShell support for a lot of the admin functionality. And then there's also management capability within the SharePoint Admin Center with RBAC and everything else that you're used to. So when you think about this dedicated storage, a good way to think about it is like this, right? You end up with your tenant boundary, and you have different apps using different stacks of containers. So for example, app 1 is using stack 1, app 2 is using stack 2, and app 3 is using stack 3 over here. And you can see that some of these are outside the M365 boundary, and some of them are inside the M365 boundary. The idea here is that when you have a whole bunch of apps, each of which has their dedicated space within the M365 storage area, that app controls all access into those different containers. So there is actually a robust and exciting permission model around this. And it's fun to say robust and exciting permission model. You can tell I've been in SharePoint embedded land here for a little while. But one of the things that we're doing is we're introducing this new permission scope and role and graph, right? So you have this file storage container.selected. This gives you the ability to set up app only and app plus user permission, and it grants access from an app into that particular set of containers. Now, because this is designed to be a flexible system, it's also possible for you to say multiple apps have access into a defined set of containers if that's your business need. But the whole idea is that it is very flexible and it's up to you to control. Now, we also have a number of permissions that are set up on the containers for both users and groups. So for example, at a container level, you can set up various roles like this reader, writer, manager, and owner, all of which have different rights within that container. Now, it's also possible for you to set up access at an individual file level within a particular container. And so maybe you have a container which Vesa owns, and then you want to grant access to a particular file or folder within that container to me. All of that works seamlessly out of the box. Now, if we look at some of the M365 experience integration, it's really interesting. You actually get to leverage a lot of this M365 user experience as part of your app. So this includes the full Office web and desktop support, co-authoring, collaboration, etc. One of the most exciting things is this ability to do app branding within the Office surfaces. So if you're an ISV and you are interested in trying to surface some of your ISV name and some of the logical container information so that customers can understand how things are organized, it's very easy for you to do that, right? That's part of how this works. Likewise, if you're an enterprise, that same information flows through. Now, there is some capability here around the M365 discovery and most recently used and all that kind of good stuff. And so that's a configurable option for you. So as you get into designing your app, you'll be able to decide exactly how you want to roll that out. And if you are interested in working with files and documents other than Office files, we actually have this thing called a one-up viewer, which helps you preview up to, I think it's 310 different file types that are out there. And so if you're using something like a PDF, for example, that's a very common one. You can embed that into your system. And then if you're working on some of the less commonly used formats that SharePoint supports, you'll be able to use those as part of your app as well. Now, on the security and compliance side, we have rich Microsoft Purview integration so that if you are at an enterprise who has invested in some of these advanced security and compliance capabilities, or if you're an ISV selling to enterprises who have invested in this capability, what you need to know is that those capabilities flow through to your SharePoint embedded powered apps. So, for example, if you need e-discovery, audit, and sensitivity labels, which are three of the most common things we see customers ask for, you can go ahead and count on the fact that those will surface for files that are managed within SharePoint embedded containers. Now, there's a bunch of other things that this supports. So things like data loss prevention, bring your own key, retention policy, multi-geo, and more. So the whole idea is that all these Purview capabilities also flow through to files in SharePoint embedded. Now, we have been working on this for 18, 20 months, something like that, and we're working with a large number of partners around the world. And there are different sizes, different industries, because what our goal is to build a broadly applicable horizontal service for managing files and documents and apps. And it's been very helpful for us to get these requirements from a variety of different companies around the world. I want to take a little bit deeper dive into Peppermint real quick. And so Peppermint Connect is actually a app that helps law firms manage lawyers' workflow. And the whole idea is it's a unified M365 powered workflow that really does keep lawyers focused on the task at hand. And it is powered by SharePoint embedded. And so you can see over here, for example, we have a lawyer who is working in a particular context. So they have this lease of Oak House that you're seeing in Teams. And they have this great selection of the most important documents related to that that's over here in the lower right-hand corner. All of that is powered by SharePoint embedded. And likewise, they can surface this capability into Outlook. So they have a way of kind of dynamically understanding whether or not they need to create a new storage area. And so that's over here on the left. And then if you look over on the right, you'll see that we have this very consistent information and security architecture across clients, all powered by SharePoint embedded. Now, I mentioned before that we are in public preview and it's very easy to get started. And I think we're going to have a walkthrough of this in detail next week. But you can enable SharePoint embedded through the SharePoint Admin Center in any tenant, including developer tenants. We have content over on Learn that's designed to help you build your first apps. And of course, we have some self-paced learning modules as well. And actually, just I think last week or the week before, we announced our VS Code plugin that makes this super easy. So you can actually get up and running fast, easy, and free within about 10 minutes on using SharePoint embedded using a developer tenant. So you can learn everything that it's all about. And that's about it. So thank you very much. And I look forward to kind of continuing this series. As Vesa mentioned before, we're going to have a number of these over the coming weeks with demos of core functionality. So thanks again.
Excellent. Thank you, Reid, on that one. Awesome job. A lot of questions and a lot of discussion and chat, which is always a good sign. A lot of excitement on the new features. So great job on that. Now, we're a few minutes behind of the schedule. It's okay if we go a bit long. It's okay. We'll see how this goes. But we have Loki and Ryan to talk about the changes to the website tab in the new Teams client. And Loki is sharing the screen. That is a good start. Whenever we get there we go. There's the screen. And you are still muted. Let's get that one sorted out as well.
Let's see. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Thank you, Loki.
Perfect.
Take it away.
Thank you. Hi, folks. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on where you're joining from today. My name is Loki Meyburg. I'm from the Teams platform team, and I'm here to talk to you folks about the changes we're making to the website tab in Teams. It's not really a demo per se, but useful information you should be aware of. Let's go over what I'm going to cover today. First, some of you may not know what the website tab is in Teams, so I'm going to go over that first. I'll also talk about the problems we're running into today. There we go. Next, we're going to talk about what we're changing, and then I'm also going to be answering some of the frequently asked questions about this change. So, what is the website tab? In a chat or channel, you can click on the plus button to add a tab. Next, you'll select the website app from the list of apps available. The website app it's been around for quite a while now. And then next, you're going to give your tab a name. You'll enter in the website URL that you wish to pin. So in this case, I'm adding the Microsoft Math Solver website. And then once you've pinned it, you'll have pinned the website as a tab in Teams, which renders the website's contents inside of the Teams app. It does what it says on the tin, but not exactly, because we're running into some problems, and I want to talk about that. So we've always had some reliability problems with the website tab in the classic version of Teams. These problems range from websites not loading in the web version of Teams to not loading in the desktop version of Teams due to conditional access policies. There were many other smaller issues too. But over the years, we've addressed many of these issues. The website tab was also a bit of a security and privacy issue for users in the classic version of Teams, because users could pin any website in Teams, which could be malicious. And we addressed that with a banner asking the user to be sure they trust the URL before using the website tab in Teams. But the website tab is starting to have issues for very valid reasons. So let's take a look at what's happening. The new version of Teams is built on web standard best practices. So this means that if a website doesn't want to be loaded inside of Teams, we have to adhere to that request, not to be loaded inside of Teams. So what a user sees is this blank screen with the option to open the website in the new browser tab. We see this in particular around pages that require a user to be logged in to see their content. In fact, it's actually good security practice for most pages that require sign-in, and we started noticing more and more web pages preventing themselves from loading inside of Teams. Over the last few months, we've received a lot of incidents and bug reports around this issue. If a website used to work or is currently working in the website tab, there is no guarantee that it won't one day break. For those that want a more technical answer, the new Teams uses a heavily modified custom iframe implementation, but it's still possible for a website to do frame busting, where they detect that they're being run inside of an iframe or being run inside of Teams and fail to render. And we can't stop them from doing that. So the previous technology we were using in the classic version of Teams to load website tabs is also changing, because it's no longer considered best practice. That piece of technology was the WebView tag in Chromium, which is being deprecated. So we would have needed to make the change in the classic version of Teams regardless, but we're focusing our attention on the new version of Teams, since that's where we're all heading this year. So in short, more and more websites are choosing not to load inside of Teams, leading to a confusing and broken user experience. We've received a lot of complaints about it, and we've explored over a half dozen options, but it all comes back to respecting the websites and their users' security and privacy. So about a week ago, we sent out a message center post to IT admins explaining the issue. The post outlines our plans to begin rolling out changes starting in April. Since then, we've received a lot of questions about the change, and there's also some misunderstandings. So at the end of this presentation, I'm going to answer some of the frequently asked questions we've been receiving. But first, I want to dig into the what we're changing part of this message. So to be clear, we are not removing the website tab. We are changing how it works in Teams. The website tab had two benefits: bookmarking links and opening websites in Teams. Because loading websites in Teams is no longer an option, we're going to lean into bookmarking and aim to create an experience around bookmarks. Now, I can't show the final experience on this call as we're still iterating, learning, and refining that experience, but I will try to explain what you can expect at a high level. Keep in mind, these wireframes are deliberately high level to help illustrate the user flow changes, but the details of the final user experience and interface are still being iterated on, not ready to share yet. So today, when you click on a tab that's powered by the website tab, we navigate you to that tab, load the website, and display a banner with a button to open the website in the browser. Keep in mind that that was the happy path. What we're seeing is that more and more websites do not wish to be loaded inside of Teams and instead show a blank screen, with the only workaround for users being that open in browser button that's in the banner. When we start rolling out the changes in April, users will instead open the web page in their browser of choice, where things are guaranteed to work. Users will have access to their keychain, browser plugins, conditional access policies will be properly enforced. Overall, just a much more reliable experience. For Edge users, if possible, we'll try to ensure that the Teams chat follows you into the browser with our new Edge app feature. For some, especially those that were seeing blank screens before, they may see this as an improvement. For others, such as those which haven't had difficulty loading websites in Teams, they may see this as a step backwards. We recognize and really empathize with them. Keep in mind that just because a website loads in Teams today, it may not in the future. And the change would have needed to be made in both the classic and the new version of Teams eventually. For those that need to show web content inside of Teams, there are a few other options available, such as using the app instead. So what I mean by that is using the Planner app or Jira app instead of pinning a Planner URL or Jira URL using the website tab. Apps other than the website tab will continue to work as is. There's also the option to create a custom Teams app for your organization by wrapping that website URL inside a Teams app manifest and using our client SDK if needed to create a custom tab. Before these changes roll out, we'll be putting announcements in the website tab experience to make users aware of the change. Okay, let's move on to some of the frequently asked questions we've been receiving, and I'll try to answer them. Have we tried ABC? Most likely, yes, but we are actively listening to feedback. Thank you to everyone that shared their feedback either through support channels or over social media. Both are good. The feedback we've been receiving over the last few days has been really great. Some of it has been tough and candid, but I wouldn't want it any other way. It's how we learn, and we've learned so much from the feedback already. Just to reiterate, we've explored over a half dozen options in earnest, ranging from introducing new browser standards to UX changes like a toggle and many other options in between. We're trying to strike a balance between addressing the issues faced by users whose website tabs are not loading, adhering to the requests of websites not wanting to be loaded in Teams, ensuring we do what's best for users' privacy and security, while also empathizing deeply with those that have come to rely on the website tab for their day-to-day operations. Again, thank you for your feedback. We are listening. Does this mean the websites won't work in tabs? What about custom apps? We're only changing the website tab. Custom apps, including first-party, third-party, line of business apps, they won't be impacted. Why is the change only happening in the new Teams? Again, we would have needed to make the change in the classic version of Teams 2 if we weren't actively moving towards the new version of Teams. Why was EDU tenants excluded from the April rollout? How do I know if I'm an EDU tenant? So after speaking with EDU education customers, we empathize with them a lot. We realized we had to be sensitive about making changes while schools and universities were actively in session across the northern and southern hemispheres. We'll have more information to share about for education customers at a later date. As for determining if you're an education tenant, your tenant needs to have academic licenses, A1 to A5, for either students or faculty. If you're an IT admin, you should be able to see an education section in the Teams admin portal, or as a customer, have access to our education features in the Teams app, such as assignments, class notebook, etc. We'll have more to share when we're ready about what the new experience will look and feel like. And the next question was, will this impact GovClouds? Yes, it will. It will impact GovClouds, and we are listening to feedback from our GovCloud customers. The change is happening in April. Can you be more specific? So yes, we will start the rollout in April, and we're going to take it slow and listen to feedback. We will be putting messaging in the website tab experience itself to give users a heads up about this change too. Those who are part of our TAP program, you'll be getting the change earlier, and we'll be listening to feedback from those folks as well. What happens to old website tabs? Pre-existing website tabs will be migrated to this new experience. And then finally, our changes happening to the mobile versions of Teams. At present, we have no plans to make changes to the mobile experience of Teams and the website tab on iOS or Android. That's it. Okay. Also just wanted to share some short links with you folks in case you wanted to learn more about this change from our blog posts or point customers to any of our known issues. And I see there's a lot going on in the chat as well. So thank you, everyone that's been putting in there. I see Ryan's been answering some of them. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you, Loki, on that one. Thank you, Ryan, on helping on the questions on the chat. Really, really cool. Now we are 1 minute over time, so I'm going to quickly wrap up the call today, and the recording will be available within the YouTube channel within 24 hours. Now, next week we have two demos on Copilot Studio. Copilot. First of all, Garry Trinder is going to talk about the introduction to Microsoft Copilot Studio. So low-code, no-code options for building your Copilots. And then Aisha Bass is going to talk about extending Copilot for Microsoft 365 by ingesting GitHub repositories and issues using Python. So a pro-code version of the Copilot extensibility. We're addressing the request which we got related on a bit more low-code, no-code Copilot Studio discussions as well. And then Mark Window is going to talk about getting started with SharePoint Embedded. So what does that mean in practice? Today we have the intro, then we're getting started next Tuesday. Now, on top of this, we also have throughout the week, you can participate the community engagement in LinkedIn, in social media, and of course, we have our relatively new Discord server. We just broke 1,500 members within this server earlier today, which is a great achievement, and it's cool to see that community is helping each other within the Discord. So if you're familiar with Discord, you're already in Discord, this is a great option for you to take advantage. We are always also looking in feedback around this calls. What are the topics? What works? What doesn't work? Super important for us to be able to keep on using this and having these calls. So your input helps us on that. So please, if you have an opportunity, please reply on the survey. But again, a recording will be available within 24 hours at Microsoft 365 Power Platform Community YouTube channel at AKMS Community Videos. From there, you can find it. Subscribe there today so you know when it's available. Next call on February 6th. And that's it for today. Thank you, speakers. Thank you for active discussions in the chat. I did hear that unfortunately new Teams is having some issues with the chat within this course. Hopefully all of that is getting sorted out sooner or later. But thank you everybody for joining today and hoping to see you here next time. Thank you. Have a safe and awesome rest of the week. Bye-bye.